everyone out there in Lotus Chat World. Welcome to this special episode of Lotus Chat. We are on episode 75, Reflecting and Moving Forward. The choice is yours. And I'm here with Lotus Lady, Zian.
Hello, hi.
And we have this great topic, as I just mentioned today, that we wanted to discuss with you in this episode. So, Zian, we're just going to get right into it. So, basically, what we wanted to discuss has to do with the art of reflecting and then getting us from reflection to moving forward. So, Zian, what do you think is the state of reflection? What does it mean to be in a state of reflection?
To me, a state of reflection, it happens when it's unintentional and it's subconscious. It just comes. Like for me, it's not something like I'm gonna sit down now and I reflect, but more like it happens when, say, for example, when I'm swimming my rounds, or when I'm taking a shower and then something just pops up into my mind, and I think that that moment in time to kind of reflect on, oh, why did I think about that? Or like my memory will goes back to that time when I'm experiencing it. So that's when I know I'm reflecting on something. Yeah. What about you, Jen?
I love when you said when you're like at the pool or when you're in those, instances where it just comes to you. I
Yeah.
feel the reflection really is this natural state where your mind just goes back to maybe something in the past or maybe something that you said or did, and you reflect on what it felt like to be in that moment. You reflect on what it meant for you to be in that experience. All these feelings and emotions can come up when you reflect, or in the case of Zian mentioning, it could be a feeling of just like calm and peace where you reflect on certain things that where you're like reflecting on maybe the even just the moment that you're in and how good it feels to be surrounded by your family, by friends, maybe even just by yourself sitting by the pool. I've had the most best reflections sitting in my garden and just like enjoying the moment. And we had a wonderful episode last week where we discussed about what it is to be present in the moment and being mindful. And I love that we're just segueing it really nicely into how when you're in the present moment, sometimes these reflective thoughts can come into your head that may take you away from the present moment, as we
Yes.
spoke about. So before we move into that question, which I'm sure you're all wondering, like, are you really present if you're reflecting on the past? Deanne, I would like us to go into like what are some instances where we are thinking about the past, like examples of what it when we are in that state of reflection.
Mm, well, my active mind naturally goes to the past a lot. And whether or not I action upon it is a two different story. But one instances that I recalled was like a fallen friendship. And because I reflected that enough, like that many times in my mind, that I know that I need to take some action. So there was this one couple of years back when I had a childhood friend, and the friendship just didn't work out and fallen out. And I thought like, oh, it's just one of those childhood friendship. I could just, stuff it in the shelf. I probably won't see her again. It didn't work out. We are kind of, not in sync as much as we were in childhood. And I thought I could just let go. But then along those, quiet years when we were not talking, I think memories of our friendship keep popping up. And sometimes I reflect intentionally thinking, should I or should I not do something about it? And sometimes it's so natural and it occurs so often enough for me to realize, hang on, that reflection needs to lead to an action. So there were some reflections that do not lead to some action from me, but that specific, fallen childhood friendship kind of led me to a couple of actions. Yeah. And what about you? Tell me about some instance when you reflected about a past.
Glad that we are talking about this on a day like today. Only because I feel like I'm at a point where I've been reflecting the last couple of days on a few things, not only on my own actions and behaviors with things of my past, because it is something you can also, reflect on, not just, other people who were in your life, but also your behavior. I was also reflecting on the instance of us at the time at the age that we were, with the experience that we had up to this point. A lot of the feelings came up about the fact that I was reflecting on young Jen, and Jen who was just freshly, exploring a new relationship coming out of a long-term relationship. Jen who was reflecting on, what it was like to have that first love feeling again of falling in love with somebody, because when you're in a long-term relationship, you think, oh my God, this is the be all end all, the one person I'm going to be in love with for the rest of my life. And when a relationship of that length, goes, you wonder, like, will I ever love in that way again? And of course I did end up falling in love, and it was a very deep relationship, to a point where I was like, I felt young again. I felt like it was new, it was fresh, it was that innocent type of love. And I was reflecting on that today, and the feeling of what it was like to be in love without feeling like I'd been hurt. And if you've been in a relationship where you feel like you can completely forget your past and anything that came before it, and it makes you feel young again, that is what I reflected on. I was like, you know what? That is what the type of emotion and feeling I need to have moving forward in a new relationship. Love as if I've never been hurt before, because really that's when the real thing starts. That's when everything takes on a whole new shape, a whole new form, when everything just feels alive and free. That is when the freedom comes, when you're able to let go of the past and just love in that way. So that is what I've been reflecting on. And I'm glad you asked me about that, because reflection really takes you through the process of letting go eventually of what was, so that you can transmute it into something even better in the future. And I think it takes us really nicely into the next question. Like, I mean, really, since we talked about being the present, does it mean, what does it, when we are reflecting, does it really mean that we are in the present moment, or are we dwelling too much on the past? What do you think, Zian?
I think it depends on how much that reflection is interrupting that present moment. So for example, if I'm with a group of friends and I'm constantly reflecting on my childhood friendship while I'm in that group of friends, then definitely, I'm not living in the present, because I'm constantly, thinking about the past, or even when I'm trying to talk to that friend and trying to think that moment in time when our friendship did not used to be like that. And I think then we're definitely not living the present. But then usually my reflections are when I'm alone. Then I think, I'm still kind of living in the present, and it comes so natural that I don't even know or think that, am I living in the present or not? It just comes. Yeah. What about you? How are you like when you are reflecting?
I'm glad you brought in that kind of weird, like, am I really living in the present? About my ex-friend or my previous relationship or XYZ from the past. I think, like you said, it just comes naturally. Like, mind you, when these reflections come up, for me, it's when I get like some type of like trigger that gives me a memory about a past
Yes.
experience.
Yeah,
So like
correct.
you hear a song on the radio, or you maybe hear
A
someone,
smell. It could
a
be a
smell.
smell.
Oh yeah, I had that happen today, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because the minute it came up, I was like, that reminds me of someone, right? Like,
Yeah.
you get that kind of like, it kind of takes you back for like a second, and you're like, I wonder how they're doing today. Or I wonder, like, if they're doing okay. Like, it'd be great to know if they're doing. And then you start thinking about like the what ifs. Like, I
Yes.
wonder, all those things. And I will admit, it can take you from your present moment. So like in my case, I had that feeling today when I was shopping, and I had this like, I was like, that reminds me of someone. And immediately, like, I wanted to maybe pick up the phone and send a message or something. And I'm realizing, maybe, you know what? I stopped myself, because I'm like, that was years ago. Like, that happened years ago. This person was in my life years ago, and we obviously have gone our separate ways. To have a random message come from somebody that you were in a relationship with 10 years ago might be a little weird. Like, that's the point of reflection. Like, there, to me, when it comes up so suddenly, it just is meant to remind you of maybe a good period in your life, or maybe a lesson you learned from being in connection with that person, or maybe even taught you how to, navigate life and relationship and your own behavior better. Because yes, it takes you from the moment, but if you can move past it and just see it as like a memory or maybe a little reminder, that's when you're able to move into back to where you are in is how I see it. So now we've talked a lot about reflecting. We've talked about living in the present. How can we move forward, Deanne, so that we're not stuck in a memory, for example?
Back to the story of, that childhood friendship. I think that many times that I reflected on that friendship led me to a couple of actions. So that was how I moved forward. So I started to think about methods of reconciliation, and then I wrote her a letter. So that was when I knew that I wanted to do something, but I don't know what. And, the ego comes in. I don't want to call. I don't want to WhatsApp. And what should I do? And that's when I thought, it's her birthday. So I wrote her a letter, and that's how we kind of move forward. And that is, a period of my life where I thought about a fallen friendship and I wanted to go into an action mode. But there were many reflections that I think about and I, dwell upon, but then I do not want to lead to any action, and I just left it as it is. And I think some things are just meant to be like that, and in order to move forward is when I'm reflecting on those things that I know that I would not do something, I just snap myself. Like I literally snap my fingers so that I snap myself out of that thought, because I know it's not doing me any good. It's just the active mind playing tricks on me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Explained it so beautifully with how like the action that comes from the reflection. I think like I mentioned, like sometimes, what I said, the question was not getting stuck in a memory. And I feel sometimes those things do come up to push you towards an action of whether it is to find a sense of closure for yourself or even mend a bridge or fence that maybe could have been done in a better way. A better way of coming to an understanding between you and something else or someone else. And I know, Deanna, I've done what you've done, which is I've reached out, I've sent like a letter, or I've sent a nice email or a message in, social media saying, I thought of you today. Just want to hope everything's well, hope, your life is doing, everything in your life is wonderful. Like, to me, it's a matter of you just acknowledging the moment as the moment and seeing where that takes you and looking at the various like aspects of the relationship. Like, was it a relationship that I do want to mend because there's something good that can come from it, or was it a relationship that ended because it was supposed to end? So it takes again a lot of reflection before you take an action. Be impulsive. This is the season where I feel a lot of us are feeling a little impulsive about wanting to reach out to the past, but there's a reason why certain memories and feelings are coming up where we are wanting to mend bridges or find a sense of closure. And Zian, you and I have been on both ends. So for all viewers out there who are here, and sorry if you're getting like a bit of a choppy situation with my computer, lovely electronics, apologies. But I do want to say for anyone who's going through this, where you've been feeling that urge, just know that you can take time to reflect before you take an action, whatever action it is, whether it's to close the door, end a cycle, or mend a bridge, the choice is yours. That is what this episode is all about. It's you. So, Zian, do you have any like things that will allow us to move forward other than, the letter writing and all of that, maybe like internal things that we can do to help us get us to that action?
I love what you said about that, Jen. And I think that there are certain things in life that we just have to accept that it is what it is. It's neither good, neither bad. It just is. And certain reflections may require actions and certain don't. So for viewers or listeners out there who's wondering, should I action upon that particular thing that's in your mind right now? I guess the answer is it depends. There's no, like a clear cut right or wrong. It depends. Every situation is different, and how you feel about something is different. And I think it really depends on what you want to do. But definitely, the choice is yours. So,
So
yeah.
and I did want to leave the viewers with a great quote from one of my favorite poets about this whole topic, and it's by Robert Frost. He wrote one of my most favorite poems called "The Road Not Taken." And it's one I quote often, but there's a quote that he wrote where he says, in 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on.
It goes on.
Yeah, that's it. He said it goes on. And that is exactly what this choice is. Regardless of how you choose, life will go on and you will see that it will surprise you. That's all I have to say about this in terms of like, the actions that we take and the things we've done. Just know that life does go on and it's going to surprise you. I will tell you, I won't go into detail, but it'll surprise you.
That's so beautiful, and such is life, it gives us all wonderful surprises. And thank you, Jen, for that beautiful poem. I love it that you always end with a nice quote and from someone. Thank you so much. And with that, thank you for joining us today at our episode 75, Reflecting and Moving Forward. The choice is yours. In case you got curious about our previous episode, check it out. Episode 74, we were talking about present living. So I'll see you in the next episode, Jen. Bye.
Bye.